Ladies and gentlemen, before you take another step into your day, understand this. Your life is being shaped, directed, and controlled by laws you've never been taught, forces that operate in silence, governing your success, your failures, your confidence, your relationships, and even the limits you think are yours. These laws are not written in any book, not spoken in any classroom, and not revealed by the world, because the world benefits when you remain unaware of them. But today you're going to see what most people never see. Today the invisible becomes visible. And once you understand the laws that have been secretly directing your destiny, you will never live the same way again. And hidden laws that control your life are not written in any book, not passed by any government, and not enforced by any court, yet they shape your destiny with a precision far greater than any human institution, commanding your decisions, your behavior, your success, your failures, and the silent forces that govern who rises and who remains unseen. These laws operate beneath the surface of daily life, influencing how you think, how you respond, and how you interpret the world, and most people live their entire existence without ever realizing they have been obeying them, resisting them, or suffering under them. One of these laws is the law of internal authority, the principle that your life expands or contracts based on who you believe yourself to be when nobody is watching. If you see yourself as small, you move small, speak small, dream small, and accept less than what you are capable of, while those who command their inner authority walk into every room with a sense of certainty that magnetizes opportunities without them needing to chase anything. Then comes the law of emotional gravity, the silent pull that drags your life toward the level of your dominant emotions. If you live in fear, everything around you slowly aligns with fear. Your choices shrink, your relationships weaken, your energy fades, and you remain stuck in a loop that feels impossible to escape. But those who cultivate emotions of strength, clarity, and conviction rise above circumstances, the same way a flame rises despite the wind trying to smother it. Alongside it is the law of unspoken agreements, the rule that your life is shaped not by what you openly commit to, but by the quiet permissions you give in conversations, relationships, and moments where you allow something that goes against your values because it is easier than confronting the truth. Every time you stay silent when you should speak, every time you tolerate what hurts you, every time you pretend not to notice what you know is wrong, you sign an invisible contract that binds you more tightly than any verbal promise ever could. The law of repeated identity states that your repeated actions carve the story you believe about yourself, and once that story is written, your mind fights to keep it alive even when it destroys your potential. If you repeatedly quit, you become a quitter. If you repeatedly avoid discomfort, you become fragile. If you repeatedly choose comfort over growth, you become the architect of your own limitations. But if you consistently show up, even imperfectly, your identity transforms into one that cannot be stopped. Then there is the law of hidden standards, which governs the gap between what you say you want and what you are actually willing to tolerate. Your life rises to the level of your standards, not your desires, and while anyone can wish for greatness, only those who refuse to settle for anything beneath their true capability ever reach it, because the universe does not respond to wishes, it responds to the standards you enforce through your actions. The law of energetic exchange dictates that everything you interact with, people, environments, habits, beliefs, either fuels you or drains you, and nothing is neutral. If you surround yourself with negativity, gossip, chaos, or stagnation, your energy is slowly consumed without you even realizing it. But when you align yourself with ambition, discipline, and people who think beyond the limb, it's of ordinary life, you begin to vibrate at a frequency that attracts success effortlessly. Equally powerful is the law of inner echoes, which states that the world reflects back to you whatever you unconsciously project. Your insecurities echo through your relationships, your fears echo through your opportunities, your unhealed wounds echo through your decisions. And until you confront the roots within you, the patterns outside, you will continue repeating with painful accuracy. Another force at play is the law of delayed consequences, the principle that every small choice accumulates into a greater outcome that appears suddenly as if out of nowhere. Success is never sudden, and neither is failure. Both are the result of quiet, invisible decisions made consistently over time, decisions that most people dismiss as unimportant because the consequences are not immediate yet. Every moment you delay growth, every day you avoid responsibility, every hour you waste becomes part of a future that will confront you whether you are ready for it or not. There is also the law of silent discipline, the rule that the work you do when no one applauds you creates the results the world eventually praises you for. Greatness is not built in public, but in the quiet hours of self-correction, consistency, and focus that nobody sees, and most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack the discipline to build what their future selves are begging them to create. Then comes the law of chosen reality, the idea that every person lives in a world shaped not by facts but by interpretation. Two people experiencing the same event can walk away with entirely different beliefs, and those beliefs shape their future far more than the event itself ever could, meaning your reality is not controlled by the world, but by the meaning you assign to it. And finally, there is the law of personal sovereignty, the ultimate force that reminds you that no matter how many hidden laws influence your life, the greatest power you hold is the ability to become aware of them, to challenge them, and to rise above the unseen limitations you once believed were permanent. Once you recognize that your thoughts can be rewritten, your emotions redirected, your standards raised, and your identity rebuilt, life no longer happens to you, but begins to respond to who you are becoming, and that single realization is what separates those who merely survive from those who rise with intention, clarity, and unstoppable purpose. And when you begin to understand these laws that most people deny, ignore, or underestimate, you start to see that life has never been random, unfair, or unpredictable in the way you once believed. Instead, it has been responding to the signals you have been broadcasting, the patterns you have been repeating, and the truths you have been unwilling to face. The law of chosen effort becomes the next force in this unseen system, revealing that you are not rewarded for the effort you intend to give, but for the effort you consistently deliver, even on days when motivation is absent and no external force is pushing you. The world does not honor potential, it honors execution, and every step you take with intent builds momentum that cannot be denied. There is the law of mental territory, a powerful reminder that the space inside your mind is the most valuable real estate you will ever own, and if you allow negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, and self-doubt to occupy it rent-free, they will rule you like tyrants and shape a life that never rises above average. But when you reclaim that territory with discipline and conscious direction, you become the sovereign of your inner world, and everything outside begins to shift accordingly. The law of uncompromised alignment moves next into focus, teaching that your life becomes internally conflicted when your actions contradict your values. Every time you say yes to something that is no in your spirit, every time you shrink yourself to maintain peace, every time you betray your truth for approval, a fracture forms inside you, a fracture that eventually widens into regret, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. But when your choices match your values, your strength multiplies, your energy stabilizes, and your confidence becomes unshakable. Then rises the law of forward motion, clarifying that life favors momentum, not perfection. It is better to move imperfectly than to stay frozen in fear, because clarity comes from action, not contemplation, and those who hesitate wait for conditions that never arrive, while those who move create the very conditions they once prayed for. The law of selective influence reminds you that your environment is not passive, The people you allow near your mind shape your expectations, your vision, your belief system, and your overall altitude in life. And if you walk with those who complain, you inherit their limitations. But if you walk with those who build, you inherit their courage. The law of self-declared worth follows closely, demonstrating that the world often treats you at the level you treat yourself. If you move like you are unworthy of respect, opportunity, or abundance, the world mirrors that energy back to you. But when you carry yourself with the dignity of someone who knows they belong at the table of greatness, the world begins to rearrange itself to meet that belief. Another force emerges through the law of adaptive strength, the truth that life does not reward those who avoid challenges, but those who evolve through them. Adversity is not punishment, it is instruction, and every obstacle carries a message designed to develop a version of you capable of holding the future you are asking for. The law of daily recalibration reminds you that success is not built by one grand act, but by the small repeated adjustments you make each day. How you think, how you speak to yourself, how you respond to setbacks, and how quickly you return to alignment after life tries to pull you off course, because consistency is more powerful than intensity. And as these hidden laws continue to operate, whether you acknowledge them or not, you begin to see that the real transformation occurs not when life changes, but when you change, when you raise your awareness, reinforce your boundaries, elevate your standards, and step into a version of yourself that refuses to be controlled by unconscious patterns or silent agreements you never chose. And as you rise into that awareness, another law begins to reveal itself, the law of inner command, which states that the person who controls their inner state controls their outcomes, because while most people react to life like leaves blown by the wind, those with inner command move like mountains, steady, intentional, and unshaken by the temporary storms around them. This law teaches that your emotional discipline creates a field of stability so powerful that external chaos loses the ability to alter your direction, and when you understand this, you stop chasing calm and start creating it from within. Then appears the law of uninterrupted focus, the truth that your ability to remain locked onto a vision without allowing distractions, noise, or doubt to fragment your energy determines the size of results you can produce. Scattered attention creates scattered outcomes, but focused intention creates breakthroughs that others call impossible. And when you honor this law, you stop multitasking your purpose and start treating your life like a case before the highest court, worthy of your full concentration, your full clarity, and your full conviction. And the law of chosen discomfort emerges next, revealing that every great life is built on a foundation of voluntary challenges. Comfort is a silent trap disguised as peace, but growth lives on the other side of deliberate struggle. Those who avoid discomfort try to protect their present, but sacrifice their future, while those who embrace it understand that discomfort is the currency required to purchase transformation. Then comes the law of opportunity readiness, the principle that life does not give you what you hope for, but what you are prepared to hold. Opportunities arrive dressed in responsibility, and if you are not mentally, emotionally, and spiritually prepared, they slip through your fingers and move towards someone who has done the internal work to receive them. This law explains why two people can encounter the same moment. One sees pressure, the other sees possibility, and the difference lies not in the moment, but in the readiness of the person experiencing. And the law of unfiltered truth continues the sequence, reminding you that your progress depends on your willingness to confront the truth you avoid. Every denial becomes a barrier, every excuse becomes a chain, and every lie you tell yourself becomes a law you unconsciously obey. But when you choose truth, even when it stings, even when it exposes your weaknesses, you reclaim power that avoidance once stole from you. Following close behind is the law of resource expansion, which states that you are never limited by what you lack, but by what you fail to maximize. People blame circumstances, money, time, or opportunity, but the truth is that expansion begins when you learn to multiply what you currently have. your discipline, your creativity, your resilience, and your ability to adapt. And the law of momentum reciprocity teaches that life returns the energy you bring to it. Decisive action creates openings, hesitation closes them, and every time you take a bold step, the world takes a step toward you. Those who move with confidence activate pathways invisible to those who remain frozen in overthinking. And when you begin to honor this law, your life starts to accelerate in ways that feel almost unfair to those still waiting for permission to begin. Finally, the law of identity reconstruction reminds you that you are not obligated to remain the person you were when you were unaware of your power. Your identity is not a verdict, it is a choice, and at any moment you can rewrite the story, reshape the narrative, and rebuild yourself into the type of individual who not only understands these hidden laws, but wields them with precision, intention, and unwavering authority. And as you rebuild yourself with that authority, another law steps forward, the law of intentional exposure, revealing that your environment is not just a backdrop to your life. It is an instructor, a mirror, and a silent architect shaping what you believe is possible. Your mind absorbs the standards of the spaces you enter, and if you constantly expose yourself to mediocrity, gossip, or small thinking, you unconsciously begin to shrink to fit the room. But when you place yourself in environments where excellence is normal and ambition is expected, your identity expands simply from proximity. You grow in the direction of what surrounds you, and this law reminds you to choose your surroundings with the same care you would choose a legal partner whose influence could determine the fate of your entire case. The law of earned clarity follows closely, teaching that clarity does not appear magically. It is earned through action, reflection, and the willingness to challenge your own assumptions. Most people wait for clarity before they move, but clarity is a reward for movement, not a requirement for it. And those who advance without having all the answers gain insights that the hesitant never discover. And then reveals itself the law of personal calibration, showing that your internal settings, your patience level, your tolerance, your emotional responses, your sense of urgency determine the type of life you create. If your calibration is set to low effort and high excuses, your outcomes will always match that setting. But if you raise your standards and recalibrate your expectations, your life begins to rise to meet the new level you declare. This law teaches that your transformation is less about changing everything around you and more about adjusting everything within you until your inner world becomes aligned with the future you desire. The law of consequence awareness appears next, the truth that nothing you do is isolated. Every habit produces a pattern, every decision produces momentum, and every small choice creates a ripple that eventually returns as a wave. People underestimate the weight of small decisions because the consequences are delayed, but this law states that nothing is ever truly small. Everything contributes to the architecture of your destiny. And the law of inner reinforcement emerges, reminding you that you cannot rely on external validation to build internal strength. If you depend on applause to feel valuable, your confidence becomes fragile, but when you learn to reinforce your worth from within, you become unbreakable. Inner reinforcement is the ability to anchor yourself, belief so deeply that even when the world doubts you, you remain certain of your path. The law of energetic precision adds yet another layer, teaching that your energy is one of your sharpest instruments, and how you allocate it determines the quality of your life. When you give your energy to unnecessary battles, draining conversations, or habitual distractions, you weaken your power. But when you direct your energy toward growth, discipline, and vision, you become a force that nothing can dilute. And next comes the law of non-negotiable vision, the principle that your dreams only become real when they stop being suggestions and start becoming requirements. A vision that can be negotiated away is a vision that will never materialize, but when you treat your purpose with the same seriousness as a binding contract, you uphold it even when it becomes inconvenient, uncomfortable, or misunderstood by others. This law states that your future is secured not by desire, but by the commitments you refuse to break. Finally, the law of progressive becoming reminds you that life does not ask you to become your ultimate self overnight. It asks you to become one step more aligned, one step more disciplined, one step more courageous than you were yesterday. Every single day you progress even by an inch, you reinforce a destiny that once felt unreachable, but now becomes inevitable because you are rising toward it with intention and unwavering adherence to the laws that quietly govern who you are becoming.